Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show. Welcome to the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl, where we dive into the captivating world of books. Here at the Book Buzz Show, we encourage you to make your pages turn with joy and immerse yourself in a magical literary experience. Enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the Book Buzz Show. I'm your host, Cheryl Brooks. And if you are new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. If you enjoy the upcoming show, please like, follow, subscribe, and share the broadcast. For those of you who are new here at the Book Buzz Show, we do discuss the book and the characters with some minor spoilers, but nothing that will ruin your reading enjoyment. Also, in addition to being a live broadcast, the Book Buzz Show is a podcast. So you can also find us wherever you get your podcasts with at the Book Buzz Show with Cheryl. Also, so you know that tonight's episode is being brought in partnership with Black Odyssey Media. And you can check out their roster of authors at blackodyssey.net. All right, we have a great show in store for you this evening. I'm excited, as I always am whenever I speak to this author. Tonight we are speaking with Joan Vassar, and we will be discussing her latest release, Sweet Honesty, and that is the book cover on the screen. For those listening later, again, that's Sweet Honesty by Joan Vassar. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to bring on tonight's guest along with my co-host for this evening, Katina Brown. Welcome, ladies.
Hello.
All right, looks like we have people in the audience. Let's see, Myra. Hi, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Let us know if you hear an echo, you all.
Mhm.
Jennifer, thank you for joining us. Islin, thank you for joining us. Hi, Erica. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for joining us. On Instagram, we got DM's Diamonds has joined, and they're saying hello. I don't know if that's Chanel, but and they saying yes, it is an echo. Okay, so I don't know why. Let me try putting on my headphones again. Let's see if that helps. I've already turned down my volume. I don't want to turn it down too much. All right, so hopefully this will help. We had this issue too last week,
Mhm.
and as we went on, it just faded away. So hopefully that'll happen this time as well.
Mhm.
Um, but we're gonna get right into it. Okay, so Joan, this is my birthday week, so I said this is the perfect opportunity to talk about this. I really enjoyed the book, as I told you before,
Yeah.
and this was a departure for me, as far as what I normally read, as far as romance. Um, let's see, oh, they're all saying that it is the echo. Okay, thank you, everybody. Hopefully it'll stop. Okay, so Joan, okay, we'll start with the title. I like the title. How did you come up with the title for the book?
So the title, I I thought that the title would be something that I would um, make that people would not associate with men.
Mm,
In terms of it being a story about men, they would think that it would be maybe a little soft. But I thought that I was going to label it based on the love.
Mm.
mm. Okay.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Okay, so as I mentioned, this is a departure from what you have written in the past. So I know people who have read it or seen that it's a male on male romance. What made you decide to write this particular story?
Well, I want to explore Black love, period. And I think that was going to be it's always going to be first and foremost. I want to talk about love. I want to tell stories about love. And so this to me was not really a departure like people think, but I could see why people would say that. Yeah. But I want to tell Black stories about Black love, about Black experiences.
Was it difficult for you, a decision for you to come up when you decided to tell this story? Was it a difficult decision to do it?
Um when you're an artist and you're talking about wanting to do the work, um it's never a hard decision other than can you pull off the book, can you make it interesting, will people like it. um but in terms of it being a romance about a same-sex couple, two Black men, um I think the decision was a little hard, but I think it wasn't, let me say, it wasn't as hard as writing the Black series.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
um, Now, what has the response been so far? Have you been getting good responses, getting feedback?
For the most part, people have liked it. I do notice that some people in my group have not engaged with it, and that's always disheartening. It's a story.
Mhm.
But I mean, I don't read nonfiction books, so I guess it's a preference.
Mm-hmm. And
And
that's the way you have to look at it. Yeah.
and I love when readers enjoy the work and enjoy the love and all of those things, and so that's what I'm hoping for. So the engagement with this book has not been what I expected, but it also hasn't been bad either.
Mm-hmm.
Mm,
What do
okay.
you want readers to take away from the story?
I hope that when readers read this book, that they're probably 4 or 5 chapters in, 6 chapters in, and they forget it's two men, and you're just trying to figure out if these two people are going to stay together. That's what I'm hoping for, what I'm shooting for.
Was that your experience, Katina, when you read it?
That was exactly what I experienced because it was forgotten. It was still there, of course, but it was the relationship and what they were going through took the forefront, and met the male thing. It just wasn't that big of a deal. It was just, two people trying to figure out life in that time, in that period, and juggling the society's ideas and family ideas, and just like a regular romance
Yeah.
for
And
me.
DM's Diamonds is saying, "Oh, she's talking about the title. The title is so good."
Hmm.
And she's saying that's exactly what happened to us. We were waiting to see what was going to happen. Like, oh, she made
The googly
as far
eyes.
as you mean, as far as the response.
Hmm.
Um, Clarify that a little bit. I think that's what you're talking about as far as the response. For me, it was like that too. Just because I always tell Jonas all anyway that she's a great storyteller. So I got caught up in just the story of, and I love period pieces. So I got caught up in just the everyday life of the 50s, and I love family and strong friendships, and so we got a little bit of all of that with the story as well. So like you said, the the romance or their storyline was there as well, but it was so much more in the story, I think. And I think I put that in my review too. That
Wow.
it's so much more to it besides that. So give it a chance. I also don't normally read same sex romance, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So I highly recommend it for those who are on the fence. Okay, so how do you feel now after writing the book since it's been out in the world? Are you satisfied with how it came out?
Um, so this story was one of the things that, if I had to say what was difficult about writing this story, was that I written the Black series, and it is a period piece that deals with our experience as it pertains to living in this country. And
Mm-hmm.
so this was that piece, and I wanted to not talk about that the way I did in the Black series, but actually let you just see them living in it as an everyday thing and not stepping aside to say, hey, this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, they're living in boarding houses because a lot of people don't understand that redlining caused a lot of people of color to have to parse their house out in order to keep it.
Mm.
So I didn't talk about redlining. I'm showing you the conditions under
Right.
which we live in order to make everyday work. So I think that was the hard part, not stepping away from the story, but just showing you the story.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And I think it made it more by doing that. It made it more relatable, and you did. You felt like you were in rural Georgia back in the
Mhm.
50s,
Right.
or in New York City in the 50s. You just got a sense of what life was back then for people of color.
And so
My,
now that it's out in the world,
mm-hmm,
I mean, I'm pleased. I feel the way I would about any story that I've written. This one I'm particularly proud of because it I'm not a man, so it's a lot of research, and that I don't write, and that I didn't write the story that would be stereotypical or what
mm-hmm,
people would believe it should be. I'm sure people were waiting to see if I was going to turn one of them into the stereotypical, what we believe is everybody that's everybody that's gay, every man that's gay is feminine, and all.
mm-hmm,
I was trying to actually step away from the stereotypes. Certainly, there are feminine men, and there's nothing wrong with it, but not all gay men are feminine. And
mm-hmm.
so, I was attempting to tell a story that. um was as realistic as I could get it, writing it from a female point of view.
What surprised you the most when you were doing your research, as far as either life in the 50s or just in research as far as uh, gay lifestyle?
I was not aware that New York was one of the first states to change the law to a misdemeanor in 1950, because people were doing 10 years in jail,
Mm,
Mhm.
and often with no proof. So not only are gay people being locked up, but so are heterosexual people.
right.
And I think, as I continue to research and look at other stories, I was not aware that Eisenhower signed a executive order to fire all gay people from government.
Wow.
Hmm.
So that's
Mhm.
in 1953. So I had no idea that these things took place. And you have to understand, we are already dealing with a civil rights issue. And now, you're either lesbian or a gay male, and you're having to deal with those issues as well as civil rights issues. So there
Mm-hmm.
was a lot of stuff. I think one of the other things that I was pleasantly surprised about. Um, is I like the music from the time.
Mm.
Yes, that was one of my favorite things. Is the music. Because I love music in books, period, in stories, and so I enjoy getting a feel of 50s era um, music. I'm trying to read my thing went up a little bit, but DM's Diamond is saying Joan Vassar is one of the best storytellers of our time, not just because she tells the stories of Black characters, but because she teaches us a little more about ourselves with every chapter. Yeah, I agree
Agree.
with you. I agree with you.
Mhm.
And Miss Alexandria House has joined us as well on Instagram. Welcome, welcome.
Wow.
All right. So Elisa said, she said you told that story about love.
Yes.
What were some standout moments for you, Katina, in the book?
There were so many, but most of them were. I love the tender moment between Michael and um,
Alex.
Alex. Even when they started, you know, acknowledging their feelings, they weren't just they took it slow. And I
Mm-hmm.
and I their whole they were, for me, they were emotionally mature.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
in their
Mm-hmm.
approach to their relationship. Alex, he was kind of more. I felt like he was more of a leader. In the relationship, at least in the beginning, knowing that Michael had little hesitation based on his past with his ex, who got on my every last nerve.
I think that was the case for a little bit of
Oh my
everybody.
lord!
For
Everybody, for
everybody,
real, for
yeah.
real. uh, um, one element that I liked is that both families, supported them, which is not always the case, especially back then.
Hmm.
So was that intentional for you, Joan, as far as making sure that you made it where the families didn't disown them?
Well, I think it was intentional because I felt that the family was dealing with so much. Being black in America, in New York City, parsing out your home, all of these different things. And I felt that the sexuality between the men was the small thing, it was the small of it. And
Mm-hmm.
I attempted to have my characters be treated as if it was the small of it. It was big for them, but I think when they dug deep, they realized that their family members just love them. And I think what I had fun with was writing that scene between Alex and his sister when she was like, "Boy, go home." I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
If you
Mm-hmm.
wasn't so busy being upset, you would have seen that he ain't even dealing with me. He dealing with you. You know? And I think the tender moments even between all the men. I think when Joe is trying to uncomfortably ask, are you
Hmm.
and Jack not speaking? And Alex is putting them in the hot seat. Are you asking if me and my beau are not talking? And you know what? I think I wanted to tell a story. Um, there's always the exceptions to the rules. And even with the Black series, I think people walked into that thinking they were going to see a bunch of slaves. What I
Right,
showed you
right.
was a bunch of people who decided they weren't going to pick cotton. And I think that's what happened with this story. I wanted to show you people trying to figure out life. And that the people around them were so busy doing the same thing that they were not trying to impede them from being who they were.
Mm. I loved just everything about the story. It was so engrossing, and like you said, Katina too. I loved that they were mature, emotionally mature, because even when Alice's sister had like a little crush on
Hmm.
Michael, I like that how upfront he was with her and how she responded. Her reaction to it.
Well,
Um,
I think one of the things that was important is that he had come to New York to live as close to his authentic self as he
mm,
possibly could.
mm,
And part of that meant not to drag Gloria along,
mm,
that he wanted to value the friendship, and he certainly did not want her to believe that whatever rejection she was feeling was based on who she was. And
right.
it had nothing to do with him. This is who he's been before he met her, and he was not willing, even with the idea that he could lose this chance to live in such a nice place. He didn't want her to think it was something that was her fault, and
Mm.
so he was vulnerable, and it was scary.
And was it a little bit too because he saw the way Lamont did their friend who was now Lamont's wife. I
Hmm.
I was thinking that as I was reading. um, because I felt for her more than I felt for anybody else, because just to be, the deception. Um,
Well, and I think the deception on the Lamont part is real, but I think I answered that question in this book, and I attempted not to leave the reader hanging. When you get to the prologue of the second book, which is the teaser, Lamont says, I'm not confused about being homosexual. I'm confused about having a wife that I am in love with.
Mhm.
well, you remember I had some questions for you regarding
Right?
that.
Right. Right. And but I answered that question. I know people think that he married Vicky because she was a beard. That's
Right,
not why he married
right,
her. And I
right.
attempted to answer that, and I attempted only to answer the question and not tell you anything else, because that's what makes you go to the second book,
Mhm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Because the
Mm-hmm.
second book is Lamont's story. And by the way, it is already up for pre-order.
Right. So make sure everybody goes out and pre-orders. Uh, Lizette is looks like she's also joined on Instagram. Welcome, welcome. And we have Miss Eva J. Brott in the audience. Hello,
Hello.
hello. Um, yeah, I really, really enjoyed this book, Joan. As I told you, it was a hesitation at first, but I just had to
Mhm.
open my mind
Right, right.
and just enjoy the story, and I just got, like I said, caught up and swept up in it. Um, what was you said one of your favorite parts to write? What was another favorite for you to write?
Um, so another favorite part for me to write was them attempting to be figure out that they're in a relationship, as we as women are thinking they do this thing only with us. But I mean, this is what sometimes love calls for, that they're not on eye level. Alex has his insecurities,
Mhm.
Michael has his. I think the one of the things that I thought was a great scene to write was they're playing basketball and Alex finally decides, the hell with it, I'm gonna kiss him. And
Mhm.
I think that moment um was a sweet moment for me. I thought that the book being called Sweet Honesty
Mm-hmm.
was soft, but the men were not. And I think that was I think that's what made the title even more. And for people who don't know, I picked two chess pieces because there's not two kings on the board, and so I made it two kings, two black kings,
Mm.
which were chess pieces. And I thought though that would be, um, I think the kind of book that people would be like, I could bear with this cover. And for those who were braver, I had a different cover, the hard cover. Is two
Mm-hmm.
men facing each other.
Mm. I
I
like the
did
chess
notice
piece
that.
though.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful cover, and I love the new cover as well. Lisette is saying it was such a sweet love story. DM's Diamond is saying, oh, she said they running to get pre-order. uh, and let's see, who is that? Katina, mine went up fast. It looks like we have another comment over there.
Oh shoot. Um,
I hate
says,
that Instagram has it on a separate thing.
says we think Joan did a phenomenal job. This is from, who was that from? The Fort
Oh,
Tan.
Yeah,
and
that's my
beyond.
group.
That's
Yeah.
Jones' group.
That's true. Says, hello, ladies. We think Joan did a phenomenal job depicting not on love, but she showed the love and support of family who provided a safe space for them to be who they are without judgment or question.
Hmm.
Hmm. Totally agree. Now I can tell you too that I learned some things, some terms and stuff that I did not. I'm like, okay, I did not know a lot of this. Was that I'm sure that was interesting research for you when you were.
Right. I was like, that was so good.
Oh man. Um, but I
So
thought it was
this,
interesting how how they referred to, was it Dorothy?
Friends of Dorothy.
Friends of Dorothy, things
Dorothy.
like
That's an
that.
actual term
Is it? Okay.
yeah, it's an actual term. And it really has to do with the fact that Dorothy Parker was married to a bisexual man, and Judy Garland, a lot of people don't know, was a very big LGBTQ icon. And
Oh, really?
so,
Okay.
yes, and so Friends of Dorothy could refer to either of those two. Yeah.
Hmm. So you learn something. I'm like, okay, I'm learning all kind of stuff, and then too, I thought was interesting. Um, Michael and Alex, they had to determine basically who.
Pitcher and
I
catcher,
don't even
was it?
I don't even know how to say it.
No, he said, "Are you a pitcher or a catcher?" I think that's what he
Right or something.
Yeah.
That's it.
Oh
If I
man,
tell
but
you how many people who knew me read that scene and just text that phrase to me, I must have got it about 15 times, yeah. And so, and you know what? I attempted to leave the conversation between them authentic,
Mhm.
and so my mother said, I don't understand. How do you know this? I said, you don't want to know that. So, yeah. We're not going to talk about that. Yeah. But the complicated was the sex scenes, right?
mm,
Um, and I find that when I was writing these scenes, that it would have to be more than looking at porn. It would have to be having to figure out about love, about how the body works,
mm,
about what actually the prostate is,
Mhm.
what is the difference between a penile um, orgasm and an anal orgasm, who is looking for an anal orgasm, all of those things. And so my daughter walked by and I got this big diagram of just the penis and all of the tubes running through it, a medical diagram. And so my daughter's like, I went to explain and she said, don't, it's fine, it's fine, just
say this
don't.
is just for research.
Right, right. And so but I think men are beautiful, and I think black men are beautiful,
Mhm.
um
Hmm.
um in who they are.
I
And
agree.
so, and I thought I could tell this story and I could make it sexy and I could offer you the same things I would offer if I were telling a heterosexual story. And
Mhm.
that's what I was shooting for. And so for me, after the first kiss, it went out the window that this was a gay romance and more of what happens next, who gets hurt, and how am I going to write this. And if I had any real problems, it was that I wasn't killing somebody in the story, because
And I was about to
me.
say that's usually your
That's
when you
my
try to throw
MO.
us for
Right,
a loop is usually
right.
you killing someone.
And that moment, and I'm going to tell you, also while I was writing this story, I played all of the music that they danced
Mm,
to, that they
Mhm.
kissed to, that they talked to. I played all of that music in my room. So in my room it was 1950, and I
mm.
think the only song that I played that wasn't from the 1950s was the OJ's Family Reunion.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Now we have to talk about these exes that kept cropping up. Um, because it wasn't just Lamont, it was also, and I can't think of his name right.
uh, Alex,
Alice's ex, the
Jack.
one, yes, Jack.
Jack or Charlie? Well, Charlie
Oh, that's
really,
right. He had several.
Yes,
he was quite
yes.
the.
Right. And me and Katina actually talked about that not too long ago after she read the book
Uh-huh.
about we were talking about how it wasn't the stereotypical where usually we hear about you talk about gay men and how what's the word I'm looking for free they are
Hmm.
with their bodies and stuff like that, but then we had to acknowledge that Alex was a little out there, but he he left some broken hearts um, along the way.
Mhm. Mhm.
So when I was writing that, I wanted to be realistic to men's sex drives.
Mm.
And he was young and 27, but I will say, I grew up in inner city Queens, and you know, I've met plenty of heterosexual men in my neighborhood who had babies with 3 and 4 women in the same neighborhood. So sexuality really doesn't have anything to do with it. If a
Yeah.
man wants to sleep with a bunch of people, he gonna do that no matter who the hell he's
Regardless,
sleeping
huh?
with. And so, and I'm telling you, I come from a neighborhood where a girl in each building had a baby by so and so, and he
Mm.
wasn't taking care of none of them.
Mm-mm.
So,
Before is saying the soundtrack was dope and so relaxing. DM's Diamonds is saying, baby, Alex was the man.
my mother said the same thing, but my mother was in love with Michael, so she wasn't Alex's friend. I said, "Well, you're not gonna be with Michael, even if you're not.
Right,
Michael's not gonna be with you." So my mother was a little. She said, "I'm a little sad about that." And I think when my mother was reading it, I was waiting for her to give me the blues, and she came. And I remember one day I said, "Where did you get to?" And I was telling this in the group yesterday, and I said, "Where did you get to?" And this woman said, "Butt plug." I said, "Why don't you just tell me the page? You don't have to say
Oh
butt plug.
man.
Just tell me the page. I'm good." Yes, page 70, maybe. Yeah. My mother said, "No, no, no. I stopped at butt plug. I'm gonna pick it up there." Yeah. I act like I didn't hear it because she was just being grown. That's what she was being.
Oh man.
Oh
Ola, hello, welcome, welcome.
my God.
Oh
That's
my
funny.
goodness.
That is funny.
Okay, so at the end of the book, we kind of get, I don't know, we think that something's gonna happen between Lamont and Jack.
Hmm.
You want to say anything?
Cross my fingers, please.
Y'all just giggling all over the place. I'm just staring at y'all laughing. I need y'all to stop. Y'all got to stop
You
this.
know, you always try to like figure things out in a book, like that
Mhm.
is that
But
another.
if you go to Amazon, you can read the new book, The Bittersweet. It's up and the description is there. So you
Okay.
might be a little shocked. I'll see if I can find it and I'll read it to y'all. Hold on. Y'all find it first. I'll see. But hold on. I'm gonna see if I can find it because I'm not gonna answer it, but I am gonna say this. Y'all are bad people. That's it. Okay, so Bittersweet is the new book coming out.
Mhm.
And the description says Queens, New York, 1951. Lamont is brokenhearted and left reeling from his own choices. Vicky, Vicky's fairy tale marriage is shattered by reality. Jack is crushed by a love unreciprocated. In this compelling polyamorous romance, 3 beautiful souls come together to experience healing, acceptance, and a love that is bittersweet.
Uh-oh.
Okay, we getting a little bit
Watch out now. We're getting a little bit of what is that?
what's his
The white
name? Jeremiah's brother. I can't think of his name.
I got his name.
Just instead of two women is
Jeremiah's brother. I forget his name.
I
Right.
mean,
You talking about EJ? EJ?
yes, EJ.
EJ.
Yes,
He could
yes.
not remember his name. Yes, EJ.
We just getting a little flip this time, but I'm looking forward to reading that one as well. And when does the next book come out?
So I have it scheduled for September 1st, but I am going to be doing an event with Lashira at the end of August. And really, my goal is to have book 2 ready by the time I go hang out with my agent.
All righty, and Lashir, we talked you up, huh?
There we go.
Welcome, welcome.
Yeah. So my goal is to try to have that book ready by the time I'm at her event. Yeah.
Okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. I'm in for the ride. So.
Okay. And then so I finished this book, and I have one more book coming from this book. What for this series. And the last book is called Sweetest Taboo. And that book is about Bruce. the cousin who helped get Jack out of jail, the cousin that was posing to be white. He is
Mm-hmm.
also,
Oh, okay.
yeah, but he's posing, and he's posing to be white and straight when he's really black and gay.
Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. So
Tree.
Right.
a double whammy, not just
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
DM Diamonds was telling me the name, EJ's name.
Right.
Yes, it was EJ. Because even in that book, I was like, when it was first introduced, I'm like, what? But um, but then as I kept reading, I just I went with it,
Right.
and I'll do that with this one too. I'm sure. Oh man. But as I told you, you did a great job. I really enjoyed the book. And I encourage, like I said, anybody that's been on the fence to take a chance and read it. Believe me, it's a beautiful story. And it's so much more, it's a lot going on besides just the romance part of it. So
Yes,
you'll enjoy it.
yes, because you have to think when Michael is living with Alex and beginning to see Alex's family accepting him, it's at this point that he realizes that his own mother is accepting him. And we can
Mm,
miss that because we're so close in it that we can
right.
miss it. So this is why, and this was an emotionally intelligent thing when he turned to Alex and said, "I miss my mama."
Hmm. And we talked about that too. I was saying that
Yeah,
um, when Lamont came to get Michael about his mother and what was his motivation, was it really to help, because he knew that he would want to be there and know what was going on with his mother, or was it something? I think it was a little bit of both. Um,
Well, I think, and this is one of the formulas that I use when I'm writing. I realize that readers often look for the hero
mhm.
and who might be the villain. And
Mhm.
so oftentimes I try to blur those lines so that and for certainly for people who read a lot, because then this involves them emotionally. And
mm-hmm.
so I want you to think about this, right? Yes, Lamont did come because he loves Michael, but the real truth is, he and Michael had been friends since third grade. Why would he
True.
allow
True.
Michael's mother's a leg to be broken and not come to say, hey, your mother is in the hospital? And I think people were thinking he had an ulterior motive, but you don't
Mhm.
have to have one, because think about this. While she was providing Michael a safe place, she was also providing one for Lamont.
That's right.
So
True.
he would not have left her like that. So, yes, he did come, and he did come because he loves Michael, but he came because he also loves Michael's mother.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. I
So
love
there
it. Love it.
wasn't,
Love it.
I know, I know people think, oh, this is why, and we're mad because he broke Michael's heart.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, these things happen.
Mhm.
And
Broke
I
Michael's
remember
heart and
saying to a
Vicky's heart.
friend, say, yes, yeah, and his own.
And
And
his
his
own.
own, right?
and his
Yeah.
own and his own. And I think the group that I was talking to yesterday pointed that out, because and I thought nobody noticed it, but again, when you go to that prologue, I'm answering that question, and I'm answering it in more than one place. Because
Mm.
when Alex says, is has Lamont always been good looking, and Michael said he always has, and he's
Mm-hmm.
never used it to his benefit.
Mm.
I never even recognized him to be a flirty person. So this shocked me. That's a key statement for
Right.
you to look into book two. Certainly we don't like what he did, but
True.
oftentimes
True. True.
in our life people do things and they actually don't know how to articulate, they don't know why they did it, and they don't know how to say this is what I need, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so
Mm.
um, so he's, him coming to get Michael in New York is not villainous. To have stayed home and known Michael's mother was in the hospital and in traction, that would have been
Hmm.
villainous.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on that. And I agree also that you like to blur the lines. You know who came to mind for me? Francine's Troy.
Troy, yes. sure. And you know what? I try to blur the lines because one of the things I realize is that when people read and they read a lot, they can read 10 books in a month and really only three be good.
True.
So when you're writing, you want to be one of the three. And so
Mm-hmm.
what you have to do is try to outthink the reader who reads a lot. And you
Mhm.
don't always win with that either. And so some of the stuff that's obvious, and that's why I give you these little things. And remember, she said, I don't want you to take Lamont back. And Michael said, I didn't know that you didn't like him. And she said, no, I love him.
Mhm.
Mm.
But what does he plan to do with Vicky? And Michael couldn't answer that question because Lamont had not said that to him. And
Mm.
one of the things that I think people ought to also realize in Michael not wanting to speak to Lamont, I
Mm-hmm.
think that should be obvious. He wanted Lamont to begin the conversation by saying, it was a mistake, I married her. And he never said that. And
Mm.
because he never said that, that's why Michael didn't want to talk to him.
Hmm.
That
So
is
is
true.
Lamont I'm still trying to grapple with because if to, I wanted Vicky to be out of there to be honest
Right,
with you.
right.
I'm
I
like
got you.
I'll be gone. But let's see on the fort they're saying Lily knew Lamont since he was a boy. She loved him too. And DM's Diamonds is saying, yes, we love Miss Lily.
Yes.
Yes,
And I was
yes,
so glad when Michael finally went back and made sure to bring his mother with him,
Mhm.
because she didn't want to impose on him, but she was struggling by herself.
yes. And you know what? When he went home, there was some shame. The house
Mm,
is falling apart. You've walked away because you're fit. So that's another thing. At the end of the book, when Michael and Lamont are together and they're having this in-depth conversation, Lamont says, "You probably didn't even realize you were accepted."
mm,
And Lamont was and Michael was pissed off about that because Lamont was right.
it was
So
right,
you
yeah.
couldn't have been able to relate, and you certainly couldn't have been able to understand what I'm going through because you didn't even understand that you didn't have it hard.
Mm. But isn't that the way with anybody though?
Yes, yes it
We
is.
take things for granted
I
and
I was able to write that because I've taken things for granted. Yes,
hmm
and been sorry later. Yes,
right.
definitely. Definitely. Mhm. Yep.
Uh, what? Let me see. She said Miss Lily is too young and fine.
Right.
He had to take her to the big city.
Right, right. But more importantly, I think it was important for, when Alex comes to the city, I mean comes from the city to see him, that is a very intense moment between them. It is a very vulnerable moment. And
hmm
Michael is still saying, I'm not going to be able to leave her again.
Right. That was a very I love that see I love that entire scenario with when Michael leaves and then Alex is struggling
Yeah.
like okay now what. and
Right.
his family is the one who tells them like
Why are you still
knucklehead
here?
go right.
It's like-
Right. Why are you right? I think that's key. But you know what I also thought too, that here's a moment when I can write that a black man actually understands black motherhood from being a son. He was able to look back and realize a lot of the things that he didn't realize because she was like, remember, he thought she was going to put him out. Not only
Mhm.
did she not put him out,
Mm,
but she allowed Lamont to keep coming back and forth to the house. Why?
right.
Because
Right.
they were going to be themselves regardless.
Right. And they probably would have and they would have been safer
Right,
there with her than out.
right,
Yeah.
But
right.
she
Hmm.
still had her moments when she encouraged him to like take the easy route, as she says,
Yes,
and marry,
right.
at the same time giving him support. She was still
Right.
like,
Because she knew that he was gonna have a hard
yeah,
life
Well,
with
yeah.
Michael.
it wasn't about him being gay. It was about him ending up in jail because
Hmm.
when I was researching, I realized that when New York in on April 11th, 1950 made homosexuality a misdemeanor, Georgia doubled down and made it 20 years.
Ooh.
And that did not change. That did
Mm.
not change until the late 80s. And so, whatever state you're in, I bet you if you look at the same sex law and different laws, right now in North Carolina, all of that is is still illegal.
Mm.
And we're in 2024. So, um, you're just saying whatever you can to not find yourself at some jail with your son being beat to death. Because
Right.
again, Alex made a good point to him too, right? Alex said, yes, the law just changed, but you can't trust it.
Right.
He did.
You
Mm.
can't trust it, right? And we see that with it being a misdemeanor, there would be no reason to beat Jack like they did, but they still did it.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Just like what a lot of black people are experiencing
Right,
now.
right,
I can't
right,
trust none of it.
right.
Whatever
Absolutely.
we thought was, cemented is being taken away. So,
Okay. And so right now, it's like the clock stopped in 1945 and we're in 2024.
mm, mm, mm,
So,
mm.
so these are the things that I was attempting to make real. Um, and just for a bit of trivia, if you've read book 4 and if you've read Love in Africa, this book takes place in the same places. It's just what I'm doing is picking a different era, and all of the what's going on in that area is different. So when you are on Northern Boulevard and heading through to the 59th Street Bridge and all of these things, this is this is all where book 4 in the Black series. This is all where uh, they're taking the barge back and forth between Queens and Manhattan. All of
Mm.
this area is the same, right? And it's the
Okay.
same for Love in Africa as well, right? So Black stopped in Ravenswood, and remember, Tracy's friend, a cousin Raheem, lived in Ravenswood
He did.
in the
Ah.
projects. So I'm picking an area, and this is kind of a trick when you're writing, that you can move through different eras, and for the reader, it's a totally different place. But for you, the writer, it's a familiar place. You
Right.
know there's water there. You know there's this. And so you could tell a whole different story. So when Alex and them are leaving that speakeasy and they're running toward that park, that's the
Mhm.
same park where in 1986, Tracy's cousin punches him in the eye
Wow.
in Love
Okay.
in Africa. So
Yes.
it's
Wow.
just it's fun writing, and it's fun, and one of the things I do is I pick the place that I grew up in, and then I research that place 100 years back, 50
Mm-hmm.
years back, 20 years
Wow.
back, and then you're telling a wonderful story, but you're actually looking at the progression of this particular place.
Right. I remember when we talked about one of the Black series books when they go to New York,
Right.
and when you talked about the
This is the
researchers who
same
did it.
area. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Hmm.
that Anthony?
That
No.
was
Yes,
that.
that's right. That's
It
Anthony.
was
It was that book.
Anthony.
Yeah. Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Love it.
Yeah.
Love all the little
that
Easter
is
eggs.
always fun.
Mhm.
Yeah, that is always fun for me. Yep.
Ah, love it, love it, love it. Well, you always teach us something too when we read one of your books, and like you said, you always blurring the lines, giving these anti-heroes. I'm like, oh my god. And you know me, I'm always looking for the hero. Like,
Yes, yes. And what happens is, for a person who reads a lot, if you this is probably for people in the audience that are readers. Sometimes if you stunt them from knowing just who the hero is, they have
mm,
to rethink everything, and that keeps them engaged, right? Because
mm,
once they get that part down packed, they start then figuring out what the story is going to be. and you're
Mhm.
trying to keep them from going, okay, I read this before.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right, right,
Mm-hmm.
right. That makes sense.
Well, you definitely I think we went around and around and around with unfortunately Francine and
Yes, we
Troy
did.
for
Cheryl
real,
hot
for
with
real.
me about writing that book. You hear me? She is not pleased with old Joan. Now this gay romance she okay with, but this dude talking about what the hell he gonna say and what he ain't gonna do.
Oh, wait a minute.
Cheryl
Is
was
he
like,
her
oh yeah,
savior or
no.
is he not her savior? Come on now.
Right.
What's going on?
And let me tell you, Cheryl said, okay, so he saved her. Okay, so he's the villain. She was like, okay, I'm done, right? Because me and Cheryl been together for years, right? We love each other. When Cheryl be tired of me, she just be like, no. But I know if I can get her to do that, I've done my job.
That's
Mm-hmm.
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Mhm.
Very, very good. And I like I said, I love, 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 love this
Outstanding.
book. I look forward to reading the next one. And again, that'll be coming out. You said hopefully it'll be before September.
Yes.
Um, so everyone make sure you look out for the next book, Bittersweet, in the series. And again, please pick it up. You won't be disappointed. Even if this is
Mhm.
not your normal jam, just still pick it up because it's so much, so many layers. You're going to enjoy it just like I did. Okay,
Mhm.
Joan, it's always a pleasure as
Always.
usual
Thank
to talk
you.
to you, and thank you so much for coming on the show. This was a great birthday week present for me talking about this book with
Yay.
you.
Happy
Uh,
birthday to you, ma'am.
thank you, thank you.
Yay.
Uh, and everyone on Instagram and in the audience, thank you also for uh, coming out tonight. And if you haven't read the book, I hope that you pick it up. It's called Sweet Honesty. Let me put it back on the screen. Uh, hmm, that's the cover on the screen, and I highly recommend it.
Thank you.
Highly recommend it.
You won't be disappointed. You know, I never steer you wrong. So all right. So everyone, also I'm gonna be good. This is the last show for a while. I'm gonna be going on hiatus. So I'll be back in the fall. But I'll probably pop in for a couple of things, but for the most part, the show will be on hiatus for 2 months. All right. So everyone have a great 4th of July week,
Oh yeah.
and I'll see you soon.
All
See you.
righty. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.